You're also going to see running test to see the test coverage, writing data-driven test, then running test using some tags, running test parallelly, skipping some tests from executing, and then writing API test. So that is what we are going to cover up today. So the very first thing is the setup, and for setting this up on a Mac, so we need to install Go using brew install Go. If it is Windows, then we can use scoop install Go. After we are done with that, so what we can do is we can just write down this command go env, which lists out all of these variables, all of these environment variables gets created automatically when we install Go. So we need to make sure that some of these are there. So we need to make sure that Go root is there, and then Go path should be there. So if these two variables are not there, then we'll have to set them explicitly, but by default they should be there already. Then, okay, for writing Go tests, so whichever IDE we are using, we need to have a plugin for that. So right now we are using IntelliJ, so that there has to be a Go plugin for IntelliJ. So we can download the Go plugin by going to Preferences and then Plugins, and here we can just type in Go. So for me, it is installed right now. Ashi, we are recording it. So this needs to be installed. Yeah, so that is majorly the setup part. So once this is done, we then go to IntelliJ, we create a new project. So I'm right now creating a Go project. So after you install this plugin, you should be able to see this option of creating a Go project. You can create any other project also and then include Go files inside of it. But for now, I'm just creating a Go project. And yeah, okay. So here, let's create a directory. For now, I'm just creating it, giving it the name testing. Let's say we have a very small application. Let's say we have a calculator application. So I'm just giving it a name calc, and we are creating two functions inside of it. So there's a one function sum. It takes in two inputs, so of integer types, and returns also an integer variable. So yeah, that is how you create a function in Go. So function, the keyword function, the function name, the arguments, it is in a reverse way of what we used to do it in other programming languages. So the variable name and then the type and then the return type. So yeah, this is one of the functions. And then we have other function, let's say product. Again, it takes in two variables, returns an integer value. So return x multiplied by y. Okay, so let's consider that this is a very small application that we have. Now we need to write tests for this. So in the same directory itself, so I'm creating a new file. So the test files in Go needs to have the name like this. They need to have an underscore test keyword. So when we do that, you can see that there is a different icon this time for the test file that we have. So make sure you have this. And then we need to import two packages. So the first one is the testing. So Go has an inbuilt testing framework, just like Python has PyTest, just like Java has JUnit, TestNG. In a similar way, we have testing for Go. And then we would like to assert the results. So we have the assert, testify assert framework as well. Now, for writing any test, we need to have the test starting with the test keyword itself, and then the name of the method that you are testing. As an argument, we need to pass in this, which basically means that we are fetching this variable from testing framework, and then we are bringing it here. And then now let's say I want to just assert whether the sum function is correct or not. So assert dot equal, it needs the first argument as the variable testing. Then we can call in the function sum, and then I'm giving it two values that it requires. the result should be 7. And then this is the message that should get printed when there's an incorrect result. So let's say I'm just giving it this for now. Now to run this test, this is a very simple test. To run this test, I simply need to go inside this folder that contains the test, and I can run the command go test and then run. So the name of this test. So it says it is passed. So there are multiple ways of running this. I can just also simply write go test -v. So it says that it is running test sum and it passes. So what if it fails? So it should fail this time. So yeah, that is how it gives the error. Expected is 7, the actual is 8, and it is failing on line number 9. Okay. Now, so basically we have two methods, sum and product. We have already written the test for sum. We haven't written the test for product yet. Okay, so there are some warnings it says. So we need to just import, add the imports in a certain order. So it says sort imports, and the errors should go. Now, yeah, so we have, out of those two functions that we have created, we have written the test for only one of those. So we can also find out the coverage of the test. So we write go test -cover, and it tells me how much of the code is covered. So 50% of the statements are covered and the rest 50% is left. So first of all, I'll just correct it back. And then now if we write another method, so now that you have a method, a test method for both of these functions, so the coverage should be 100%. So yeah, it says it is 100%, and then we can run the tests back. So it says all passed. Okay, now this was in the case, any doubts until here?
Swati, can you go to the test.co?
Yeah, this is, yeah.
Can you explain this this pointer testing.t?
So this is the same as the pointers in C, it just brings the variable from here, the value of the variable. So T, we are using this variable here. So
So what is dot t over here? Dot kept t.
so it's just a reference variable for all the functions which are inside the framework. And
So testing, I guess, is a package, and inside that there is a struct which is T.
yeah.
But testing package she itself has created. But where is
No,
the
no, I
hidden?
haven't created the testing package. It is already there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got
Has
it.
imported.
This is the import one.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just added it. Import.
got it. Was
Okay.
confused with the folder testing.
Acha, nahi. This is the one that starts with small t. Okay. Now let's say, so this was the case when the test and the application is, let's say, present inside the same folder. So if we have a different folder for the test, so let me just try new test. And let's say I have my testing file inside of it. So I'll just copy this test file here. Now, in this case, it is giving me an error because the files are present inside a different package. So we need to import this package also, the testing package that we originally had, because sum and product functions are present there. So what we can do is we can just add an import like this. This is an important thing, that how do you add an import for the other modules or other directories. So you need to navigate to the parent directory and then just write down the name of the package. Now this says it is unused. So what we can do is we can either add a dot here as an alias, so it will automatically figure it out that which file it is there. So any of the files that are present inside, we can reuse the functions of those files. But if you want to specify an alias for different files, you can just give it a name also. So I've given it a name, and then I can call this functions using this alias. So when you have your test inside a different directory, you can import the files you like this, and then you can call the functions with a dot operator.
Swati, can we just import a single file? Like if there are multiple files in the testing folder and we just want to import one file in here.
I think you should be able to by writing, yeah, like this. Divya, I can just, can we park that for now? I can just tell that to you later. I haven't actually tried that. Yeah, so that was a simple one. Now let's say we want to run these tests. We want to run the test based on, we want to run the test with multiple sets of data. So this was a single set. We are just using your, we are just passing in just single values here. So if I want to run this test with multiple sets of data, let us see that. So let's give it a name, data driven, and then yeah. So here again, I'll be adding those import statements. Okay. So now we'll be creating an array of a struct. So a structure is a combination of some fields with their data types. So I am just having, okay, so input 1 of type int, input 2 of type int again, and the output also needs to be an int. So yeah, this is my structure, and then I can pass in the values to this structure. So let's say 2 and 5, 2. So like this, 2 plus 5 should give me a 7. 6 plus 3 should give me a 9. And 2 plus 2 should give me a 4. Yeah, so we have an array now, and then we can run the test in a loop. So yeah, and then we can just directly assert, call in the sum function. Okay, so we need to import the package. And here we can pass in the values from the array. And then the message in case it fails. Okay, and then we can run this test. So if I want to run a single test, I can just use this command, go test -run, and then the name of the test. I think I'm in a different directory, so I'll have to move to this. Yeah, so it passes. Let's say I put in a wrong value here. So maybe this, then it should fail. If I put in all the wrong values, so it should fail for all these 3 conditions. Yeah. So that is how you test for multiple sets of data. So we call it as table-driven testing or data-driven testing. Now, let's say I want to run some of these tests parallelly. So to run parallel test, what we can do is we can just add this parallel function, t.parallel function, the test that we want to run parallelly. So let's say I want to run these two tests parallelly, and then it's not sufficient. So whenever we are running the test using this command, go test -v, here you need to include the parameter -v, and then you need to pass a count of how many processes do you want to start to run these tests parallelly. So let's say I have two tests that I want to run parallelly, so I can have two processes also to run these tests. So this will execute all the tests, but only these two tests will be executed parallelly. The rest will be executed in sequential order. So even by default, the test executes in a sequential order. So yeah, that is how you do it. You can specify any number of count here, but it will take up only those many processes that your system can start. Okay. Now let's say I want to this. So yeah, this was about parallel testing. Now there's if you want to skip some test, so why would you like to skip some test? There can be cases like one of the cases here that Go provides is that there are, let's say, hundreds of tests you have, and then some of the tests are taking a little more time than the rest to execute. So you can test for the duration, so the time basically. So let's say this test that I have is going to take more time than the rest of the test. So what I can do is I can just add a condition here, if testing dot short. So that means if I want to run my test quickly, then I can just skip this function. So I can just add this t dot skip. So in that case, it will not run this test if I have specified in my command that I want to run the test quickly. So how do you specify that? So you have this command go test -v, then -short. So in this case, this test will be skipped. So you can see that this test was skipped. So ideally it should have ran this and then failed it if this wasn't there. So since we have specified that run the test quickly by adding this parameter -short, so, and here we have specified if testing is short, then you need to skip running this test. So that's why it has skipped this test. Okay, any questions until now? Okay, so I'll take that as a no. Yeah, so then we have running test using tags. So basically, let's say you have multiple files and then you want to execute your test in one of those files or a combination of different files, but you don't want to execute all your tests. So you can use build tags. So Go provides build tags. And how can you use that? So for example, I can just write it here, build, and I can just give it a name, data driven. Okay, and then let's say here I have another tag name, basic, and I just want to execute this one, data driven test, and I don't want to execute this one. So if we run, yeah, so we can do that by using build tags, and to run this, so we need to pass in tags, and here we can specify which tags do we want to run. So I want to run only this one, data driven, so I can just put it here, and yeah, that's enough. So it is going to execute only this test, which is test sum with multiple values, and it is going to skip uh, these two tests. Yeah, so it didn't execute test sum and test product, and we can see that here it didn't execute them at all. But if I want to execute that one also, so I can just write it here, the tag name, and then in that case it executes those as well. So that is how you run test based on some tags.
Swati,
Yeah.
if okay, so if we specify like here in this file, you have specified t dot parallel for both the tests. So if we do not give the processor, then it will run sequentially. Like,
Yes. So yes, if you don't get the count of the processes in this command,
mhm.
then it is going to run sequentially. So this works
Okay,
in
okay.
conjunction with number of processes that you have defined here.
Okay.
Swati, with this tags, in the data-driven test, you mentioned that short code snippet, right? So that will be ignored if you run with this tags thing.
Yeah, so if I want to still skip that, yeah, so if I want to, yeah, so I'll have to include this -v short. So then it will skip it. But if I don't provide this argument, then it will run it normally.
Okay.
Do we have tags at function left also?
In this case, it skipped it, kept executing this one. Yeah, someone was saying something.
Yeah.
So I had a question. I joined late. I was so if we have to debug the test cases, can we do that?
Yeah, you can still use the breakpoints just like you use it in Java. It's the same, exactly the same.
Swati,
Yeah,
here.
Swati, I was asking, can we have tags at function level also?
No. So yes, I did researched on that, but no, I didn't find it at first.
So means to
It's
skip
on
a
the,
function, it's short, and for the whole, I think class or whatever, you have to use the top one, the tags.
yeah. So if you want to execute certain functions, so you can just write go test -run and then the name of the function that you want to run.
Okay.
Hey, Swati, sorry, I've joined this late. So this is mainly from unit testing perspective. We are going through it.
Yeah, we'll also see API test.
Okay.
Swati, can you run the second last command?
Which one, Divya?
Where the tag data driven, and yes. So when you run can you run this command?
Yeah.
It is running the test sum and test product, but that are not under the tags data driven.
So I have also specified this tag basic.
Okay.
Yeah. But if I remove this basic, then it will not run test sum and test product. Yeah. So here is the command that I wrote, and then it only executes this one.
Okay, I missed that.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that was about unit testing, and then we can write the test like this. We have to make sure that the test files have this kind of naming convention with an underscore test in the end, and all the test needs to start with the test keyword. Now, if you want to run API test, so I'm just adding a file here. So we are going to use the same import statements and one additional one. So it's testing, then it's assert. And for API test, we have an inbuilt framework in Go, which is net/HTTP. I think the same is used even for creating APIs. So we'll see one for get and one for post as well. So in this, we have a function, and then let's name it as test get. And let's say I'm making a call to any URL. So HTTP, and then there's method get. I can pass in any URL here. So let's say it's google.com, and okay, it says that it returns two values. So if I go to get method, it returns me a response, and it also returns me an error. So if I want to do something with this error, so what I can do is I can just initialize this and then use it. But if I don't want to use this variable, so I can just keep it as an underscore. Then I want to check whether the response status code is 200. So assert.equal t, then response.status code 200. And in case it fails, so fail to make a get request. Yeah, so let's just execute this. Yeah, so it passes. Now, if I want to maybe print this, so I can print the response body. So what we can do is we can just create another variable, and here there's a util. So whatever response we get, we'll be getting it in the form of bytes. So in order to convert that into a string and into a readable format, so we have to use this utility ioutil.readAll, and it takes in the reader as a argument. So here we can pass in the body that we have received after making this request, and this again returns two values. So I don't want to do anything with the second one, so I can just keep it as an underscore, and then I can just print whatever is the result by converting this to a string, because like I said, it is in the form of bytes. And we can run this again. So this is the response body received after making this request. So that is how you test the GIFT APIs.
So I think can't I directly FMT a response body? Matlab, I have to read it via some different utility.
So Ashi, nahi, matlab, let me show you how it gives
For
the.
example, you are reading the response.status code.
It's not in the readable format. If you just do this, this is what you're
Okay.
saying, right?
Yes, yes.
So it's not in a readable format. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
So
how.
you are converting it basically.
Yes.
Can we convert it into object, and then maybe we can apply assertions.
Yeah, we can try doing that. Then for a post API call, in a similar way. So here we have two methods wherein we can use post, and then the other one is post form. So let's use the first one first. So post, here we pass in the URL. The second parameter is the content type, and the third parameter is your request body. So this will be your request URL content type. So let's say it can be application slash JSON, it can be char set, can be HTML. And then here you need to pass in the request body. So let's pick up any post API. So I think we can use this one. Yeah, okay, let's use this one. So it's register. And then we need to pass in this request body. So how do we pass the request body? So it's not as simple as just writing the entire request body here. So we need to so since it is a JSON, so we need to cast this to a JSON. So we have the method JSON Marshal, which takes in an interface, and here we can use a map. And here we can just include this request body. Now, yeah, I'll have to pass it here. It takes in the request body in the form of bytes. So bytes. Yeah. And then I think this also returns two values. So we need to, and this is fine. Okay. Yeah. And then we can just assert like this itself, whether it returns 200 or not. Okay, and then let's say I want to, so it gives me this response code, response body. So we can just see whether the same response body is returned or not. So I'm using the same code as that of above, and then we can just run the test. Post. Yeah, so it gives me an ID and a token in the result. Yeah. So that is how you write the post test.
Can you also assert on the response body?
Yeah, so I think you can use contains and you can pass in this. And then what exactly are you looking for here? You can use that. So for example, if I'm looking for a token and then any message here. Okay, I haven't converted it to string, so I'll need to store it in some other variable. Yeah, so you can assort it this way. Yeah, any questions? Any more questions here?
So, Swati, which version of Go you are using right now for this?
It's 1.14. That's the latest one.
And this is on Mac, right?
This is on Mac, yes.
I face an issue regarding debugging, like the Delve server that it uses, right? Delve utility. I don't know if you face an issue like that.
Which utility, Sambhav?
So when you debug something with a breakpoint,
Uh-huh.
it starts some Delve kind of thing, some API server. I don't know if you also face this kind of scenario. So can you just show me one breakpoint as well and run it with debugging?
This one, Sambhav, the same. Version of Delve is too old for this version.
Yes, yes. So when I basically run the debugger, it says that Delve version, which the utility uses for debugging, it is not supporting the current version of Go. This is what I feel.
Okay, so maximum supported version is 1.13. So I have used this debugging inside Humana network, but there it's a Go version 1.13. So there I didn't face it, but maybe it's because maybe with
The
the latest
version is supported by Delve is still 1.13,
Yeah.
right? So maybe I can go back to 1.13.
Yeah. So even in Pi, they are using 1.13. They haven't upgraded yet to 1.14.
Okay.
Yeah, so majorly it's this. And if you want to see the HTML, so we have seen the Go coverage, right? We can generate the HTML reports for that. So to do that, yeah, we have the command. So we were running this command to find out the coverage, which was Go test cover, and it says there are 100% of the coverage is 100%. If I want to generate the HTML reports for this, so we have the command go test cover profile. You can specify the name of the file in which you want to generate the output, and then finally to run. So basically you can run the command separately. I'm just using this operator to run both of these two commands together. So go tool cover, and here you can specify the file that should be used to generate the HTML output. So on running this command, it automatically opens up the browser where it says that, so whatever is in green, it says it is covered. Whatever is in red, it's not covered. So if we remove this function, then let's see this. So now it says this is in red because we don't have a test for this, and this is in green because we have a test for this one.
So IntelliJ also identifies the coverage.